All street law lessons are based on two basic ideas. Students talk themselves to understanding, and students should be doing the heavy intellectual lifting in class. When you observe a street law class, you should be able to observe these basic ideas in action. The Take a Stand activity begins by introducing a contested public issue and then asking students to think through their opinions on that issue. When students are ready, they are instructed to take a stand on a continuum. From their position on the continuum, students then give their reason for the position and listen carefully to reasons given by those who don't agree with their position. Students then discuss and analyze the reasoning from a variety of positions before debriefing the activity. To prepare for this activity, the first thing you will need is to generate one or more statements about a contested public issue.
What are some controversial topics that people talk about on social media?
To generate these statements, consider the following tips. Create a brief statement that focuses on something reasonable people disagree about, is of interest to students, and has polar positions and middle ground within those positions. At the end of this video, we will list resources that provide some examples of contested issue statements. Once you have your contested issue statement planned, you should set up the classroom with the signs signaling two opposite sides of the spectrum. To begin the activity with students, review the steps and procedure. It is helpful to explain that although there are two signs, they represent each extreme of the continuum. Students may place themselves anywhere along the continuum based on their own opinions.
So I'm going to read a statement to you guys, and you guys are going to form an opinion on it. And then eventually you're going to get up and place yourself on this line. So you can be like, I strongly agree, so you'd stand under that sign. Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle where you're like, I don't really know where I stand on this. You can stand in between the two signs.
Once at the place on the continuum that aligns to their perspective, students will be asked to share the reasoning that supports their opinion. With any activity, it is helpful to establish some ground rules for participation. For the Taking a Stand activity, we suggest reviewing these rules with students. And while it's not a rule necessarily, this is a good time to explain to students that there are no right or wrong answers when doing a Take a Stand activity. Now let's see the procedure for this activity in action. First, the instructor shares the contested public issue statement for students to agree or disagree with.
I'm going to read the statement, and then I want you guys to just think about it. Don't get up and go to your spot. Just stay in your seat, take some time to silently, don't discuss it with other people. Just think about where you think you're going to go, but don't get up yet. So, the government should make rules that limit what is allowed on social media.
Next, the instructor asks the students to think about their own opinion, then move to a place along the continuum that aligns to their opinion. Once there, students are asked to share their reasons for the opinion with students standing near them on the continuum. While students share, a great facilitator will circulate to listen to students' thoughts and encourage students to clarify their place along the continuum relative to one another. After students have shared their reasoning with one another, the facilitator asks students to share their reasoning with the entire group. If possible, the facilitator should write down the reasons. For more advanced groups, teachers can ask students what reasons contrary to their own they find more persuasive. During this time, students should also discuss the implications of the various positions and reasons presented to the whole group. From here, the facilitator has a few options. Press students on their opinions by asking more challenging questions about their reasoning or about the issue. Read a new contested public issue statement and repeat the process, or ask students to return to their seats to debrief the activity. Before ending the lesson, it's important to debrief the activity. Students go back to their seats and the instructor asks a few questions to make the students think about the topic and their own thinking. For this Take a Stand activity, the facilitator used the arguments written on chart paper earlier in the activity to ask students to reflect on the most persuasive arguments for each side. The facilitator also asked about whether the activity was a good way to talk about the contested public issues, and what lessons were learned from the structure of the activity that could be carried over outside of the classroom.
What are some arguments that you guys thought were persuasive or maybe made you second guess your position?
This strategy can be used to introduce a topic or as a way to wrap up a discussion of a topic. To supplement the activity, students can be asked to do some research on the topic before it's used in class. Street Law has developed teaching materials on how to use the Take a Stand continuum activity. These materials are available on the Street Law website.